It's a pleasure to be here in Chennai, and I must tell you something that I was mentioning to some people here. Coming from Delhi, which was raining, was cold, unusually cold, this was welcome today. So thank you, Chennai, for that lovely weather, warm weather. Who doesn't love that warm weather? It's that weather often which is at the center, or these days has been the climate change, the broader picture that has been at the heart of conversations for many people these days. So, on behalf of Economic Times and on behalf of Schneider Electric, because they're partners with us for this initiative, we welcome you all. Thank you so much again for joining us. So we're talking building a greener economy together. The big picture, and there were some people who had the right answers for what the year is. The Prime Minister's promised 2070 as the year. That's the India promise that has been made, when India will go net zero. Now, as we go about in the next 45, 50 years or so, industry will have to do a lot. We witnessed to that over the years as well, on what has to be done, what steps have to be taken, so that we do the right things, so that we are on way, as as Ratnesh was just mentioning about the temperatures that we're talking about. He gave you that line, that graph. That is something to keep an eye on. It will get published again and again. You will get to see that. That is what the promise of the Prime Minister has been. So if 1.5 billion people can do it over the next 50 years, we'll have to work in sync together and accordingly go ahead. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you everyone for being a part of this conversation. Let's start, and I've put down some questions so that I make sure I can ask everyone about the way they plan to go about it. And one of the industries which I think, and I hope here you'll agree, is the real estate sector. So let's start the conversation, and since Kanchana here is the lady, let's start with the question. Kanchana, the big picture for the industry and the progress that it is making towards greener, I won't get into the metrics of it, the greener ways of working. How would you, the big picture, how would you evaluate it? What would you say?
Thank you, Ashutosh. I think we were discussing just before this conversation, you were picking up on LEED. Leadership in energy and environmental design. I mean, this is not a new concept. This always existed. Greener and sustainability aspects always existed. But I think in the last 3-4 years, the receptiveness towards occupiers, towards real estate stakeholders have actually become more serious, I would say. To put it in simple words, I would say it is not now a tick in the checkbox. People are actually conscious. By people, I mean occupiers who take space in buildings, and developers like Arun here, and all industry stakeholders. So it starts from there. For us, it starts from our household. It starts from our household, like how we manage waste. Today, it's become a much more serious game than what it is before. Even, for example, Ashutosh, if I have to say, there are a lot of clients who take space. I mean, India actually leases about 50 million square feet every year. That's the annual absorption in terms of offices that are setting up in India, which means the kind of jobs we churn out. You can understand what is the kind of jobs we churn out. So even from occupier perspective, client perspective, they have become extremely conscious about taking a green building. Of course, cost implication is there. I wouldn't say it's going to be easy, but I think at least the receptiveness towards embracing that has become very serious. And I would also say perhaps even when clients take space here, they want to be in a LEED Green Gold certified building, LEED Platinum certified building. So they're very serious about it. And I think last 2-3 years, we have seen this impact. Last 2-3 years, but we have a long way to go. The only thing that I would like to leave it here is the impact or the benefit that we are going to see, which Arun was just mentioning during our conversation, we will see the impact a little later. Instant gratification is not going to happen, but definitely you will see a lot more of efficiency and cost savings that comes because of greener and sustainable buildings, Ashutosh.
Arun, since you also interact with a lot of people who would actually be either moving to these buildings, if they are commercial, or the residential part of it, how has the working changed for you, which ultimately will show up hopefully some years later, maybe a decade later, or something like that?
Sure, thanks so much, Ashutosh. So let me give you a prelude to this, actually. Green as a subject was a kind of a boring subject a few years back. Don't mind me saying this today, in a forum which that's the highlight. In fact, it is broadly seen as a CSR initiative of organizations because they were asked, it was good to be seen as green. The game is changing. That's possibly what I might want to chip in here as my remark, because now there is very clearly the environmental interest and the economic interest were at a point in time divergent. Okay, because there's a sizable cost to becoming more greener and more environment friendly. Now the game has changed even for a very clear business interest in mind. So what's happened is that if you're getting more greener, if the quality of the buildings which you're doing is far, far more energy efficient, and your LEED certification scores are far, far higher, the probability of getting better tenants, be it in industrial or commercial spaces, is far higher, because now there is a serious intent by larger corporates or multinationals who come and set shop here to look out for buildings which are far more greener, from the broader interest of how they have defined their corporate philosophy and the value systems. That's point number one. The other point is actually now the fact that if this is going to happen and we get the tenants faster, the yields better, this is what is going to happen. Ultimately, there is far more logical financial sense to be greener because you're getting even better cap rates or the price at which people would buy the buildings which we develop and rent out to larger corporates. So it's becoming a very simple, logical path to tread. So it's not so much of a puzzle anymore that, are we supposed to go greener because of only the intent to be more socially conscious, more, societally conscious. But it's also becoming rewarding possibly in the journey. That's from the commercial and the industrial development part of it. From the resi part of it, the game is slightly different also. What happens is, a developer today develops a project, sells it and exits. So what happens is when he tries to go greener, there's an extra cost for making a residential development. The benefit of it is going to be seen by the home buyer. But because he's going to use it and hence the cost is going to be cheaper for him, assuming we do solar panels, assuming we do better, greener buildings per se. But the point is a home buyer is going to enjoy the reward of it. Hence, there is a small gap in terms of how the residential will flow through, in terms of the greener part. So, but by and large, it's slowly going to make sense. Even a home buyer, I believe, can be educated to see that if he's going to pay 100 to 200 rupees for buying a more greener building, the reward of this 100 rupees which he's paying per square foot will be yielded in the long run. So that kind of a, flow through would happen.
Okay. So Mr. Rajendran, from your, because the industry has done so much for the city and the people here, they can relate to the change that you brought about, and there's a promise also of the change that will happen. What are how can Chennai Metro be part of the whole development process so that when we are talking of the larger theme, building the greener economy together, it can work together with other industries and grow the city along with it?
Metro rail in India started with Delhi Metro, and as it stands today, about 11 metro rail systems are operating, 11 cities are operating metro rail systems, and basically the technology in 2002 came from Europe or the other developed countries like Japan. Now, if you see the key word of green economy, which was started to talk in Britain first and then into European Union. And so this became a guideline within the developed countries today. And when the technology is adopted by India from Europe and other developed, like Japan and other developed countries, the concept of saving and concept of green economy or sustainability has also come as part of the technology. Then another part is that the metros are implemented by taking pass-through assistance or loan assistance from other countries like Japan or France or Germany or other countries. And one of the conditions of the pass-through assistance is to adopt greener technology. Metro basically, as it is a greener technology. We use only electricity for running the transportation system. Now, if you see the cost part of it, 35 to 40% of our operational cost goes into energy. As initially, in the initial presentation, Schneider was telling, energy is a core area which needs to be focused as far as the transportation industry, metro industry is concerned. And when Chennai Metro came into the city like Chennai, we have brought in a new culture, and not only in terms of work culture, but then the transportation culture in terms of use of energy. Now, once the metro as a transportation system came into Chennai, it has brought in other ancillary development. We have brought in last mile connectivity in terms of electric bus, electric autos, and electric two-wheelers. So the system is developing slowly, the culture is coming up, and so we are able to bring in a new culture of efficient and sustainable transportation system in the city. And this is further going to develop. We are also expanding with our phase 2 and future phase 3 also. Definitely this will enrich the city in terms of culture and in terms of new methods of use of efficient energy.
Sure. UNNIKRISHNAN, the manufacturing industry is almost like the core for the economy, and we'd like our numbers to, India is also trying to raise the number of people working in the manufacturing sector. How can we do a better job keeping the newer goals that we have as a society, as an industry?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I think first I will talk about the opportunity that the presenter earlier spoke about. A lot of manufacturing coming into India, and India is shining. The economy is doing well. Today, the entire geopolitical situation is more in favor of India in terms of manufacturing shifting to India. But I think that's only the key for us to enter the room. And I can tell you the most elastic material is the human mind. And unfortunately, human mind runs the countries, economies, businesses, everything. So unless as a country we are cost competitive, it doesn't give us the permit to stay in that room. We can enter. I think that's where India today has a big challenge. And India today is one of the costliest in terms of energy for manufacturing from that point of view. So I think the best way for us to really, save on the cost is not to use it. I think that's the first step that we should do. So many of the first step that we need to do is really in the manufacturing sector. How can you really adopt the technology, and especially from a digital point of view? And just to give you an example of just our plant, which is just 50 kilometers from here, just by putting smart meters in the production line, what gets measured gets done better. We have saved energy by at least 15 to 20% just by measurement and then doing the right things, probably with the Schneider smart meters. But that's the kind of thing which is really possible. Second is, I think, with so much of manufacturing coming, and we are also talking about sustainability, India has a unique opportunity not to repeat the mistakes of China or make the mistakes of the West, where you go completely, berserk on emissions, and then later, you try to change the situation. India has the right opportunity to do things in the right way first time. And the good thing, again, coming back to the cost of energy, is I think the market has now really discovered the right price for electricity from the renewable. thanks to solar in a large way, I think the market has really discovered what is the right price for that. All that we need to do from a policy framework point of view is let the market do that. If you try to do, it's a very complex subject from India because it's a central, state, all those subjects. I think if that can be really, harnessed, India has a unique possibility to have the cost of electricity by itself will be significantly lower. Second, I think we will change. I think you spoke about 65 to 70% of fossil fuel, and 85% of our energy is today imported.
Yeah.
We have 6 lakh crores is our forex every year spent on that. I think we can change that and have energy security. We can move to hydrogen and things like that. So industries like us, I think we are really preparing ourselves to shift to that. So one of the things that we are doing now is already 1/3 of our electricity is from renewable. And same time next year it will be 2/3, and by 26, 100% will be renewable power. We are really getting ready to start using hydrogen as a fuel, which will really make it much more efficient and also reduce the emissions. So these are some of the opportunities I see as India is really growing.
Sure. Mr. Shankar, the industry is going through a tough time because of the very nature. It's a 150-year-old industry, but obviously there has been so much done on better quality fuels, but still there is an ask for more. How are you seeing the opportunity as a petrochemical professional?
In fact, I should thank you, Ashutosh, for asking this question. In fact, this is a very relevant question coming from you because we are in the petroleum industry, and we have been here in Chennai for more than 50 years. And to give you just a small brief background about our industry, our range of fuels, not only the transportation sector, we are in a whole gamut of fuels and also the products which are covering from the cottage industries up to the rocket fuels. So that is the range that we are actually operating on. Moreover, the products that we are producing are used by a lot of industries are dependent on us. In the Manali area itself, there are more than 20 industries which are dependent on Chennai Petroleum for the feedstocks. Not only that, we have a lot of transport sector which are dependent on the Chennai Petroleum, which is the prime mover for the industry here. Having said that, Chennai Petroleum has also been a green Yodha for many years now. We had embarked on a greener initiatives from the late 90s. Our visionaries had seen the need that we really need to develop in these sectors. So the first and foremost thing that we did was we took the the sewage water, and we started processing it in our refinery sewage treatment plant. And we used it for more of a circulation process so that the dependency on the fresh water is reduced. And then we added one more sewage treatment plant, again taking from the Chennai Metro. This is on the water sustainability point of view I'm talking. And also we set up the first of its kind desalination plant in Chennai, which is one of the first in the petroleum and natural gas sector. As an industry, we were the first to go in the desalination plant. So we further reduced our fresh water intake. So this is one of the areas where in the late 90s and early 2005, we set up all this infrastructure. We also are unique in a way that we have a wind farm in Dindigul area, which is about 500 kilometers from here. And we produce about 17.5 megawatt of solar, the wind power there. And this has been in operation since very long, and we use that power to wheel whatever facilities are operated here on electricity. We use it for wheeling purpose. So we are also now thinking about setting up a hybrid kind of a renewable power there by going for a solar because we have a very large area, about 45 acres, where we have set up this wind farm. So it gives us an opportunity to utilize those additional spaces for creating more capacity for renewable energy in the form of solar. Also, as mandated, we also have a lot of solar rooftop installations from about 500 kilowatt. Now we are expanding it to close to 5 megawatt. We'll be moving shortly. And then the government also has been very conscious about the fuel quality. So over a period of last 10, 15 years, we have seen the kind of sulfur level reduction in the fuels, and right now we are producing BS6. Starting from early 2000, now we are at a BS6 level. So we have invested thousands of crores of rupees in actually upgrading our process systems so that we are in line with the green requirement. So this is our journey over the last 20, 25 years, how we have evolved as a green Yodha. Now coming to the future concept, as you said rightly, the tremendous pressures are there, no doubt about the fuel quality emissions, but then our systems are such in place that the kind of products that come out are constantly monitored. We also have the pollution control norms which are being met seriously by us. We also have the analyzers in place, that is where the digital and the technology comes in place. So all these corrective actions and things are in place. Now, if you look at future, how we are going to move in the greener area, we are looking at CBG as a major fuel. We are looking at ethanol blending as a source of reduction of pollution, and also as a sustainability point of view, because as you rightly know, we are dependent about 85% of the crude, we are dependent on imports. So by going in the ethanol line, we are in a position to actually bring down our import bill also. That is one of the lines. Plus, we are also looking at green hydrogen as an idea for bringing in the utilities for our process conditions. So these are the kind of journeys that we would be taking in future. And as we move along and as the technology also matures, because right now, if we look at green hydrogen or CBG and all this, the technology, especially on the green hydrogen front, it is still maturing. So as it matures, the government also has mandated that we need to move by steps, 5%, 10% in the coming years. So we will be constantly moving in that direction and meeting all those requirements, plus also bringing in more capacities for bringing the green concept in the refining industry. Sure. It is no doubt trying times, but we are well equipped to handle that situation.
Sure. Yeah. Senthil, the opportunity to change is massive. We are looking at a global reset with the way every country is talking, every leader is talking. But every small person, every small business can make its contribution in the way, in the presentation, and that's what caught my attention when Ratnesh was presenting, on how each person could be the proverbial green Yodha. How would he put that opportunity for small businesses, for individuals and everyone?
Thanks, Ashutosh, for that question. Whether it is small or big, it's about ensuring that we drive efficiency. There are a couple of trends which we see across the industries, which is world is getting more digital, we all know. And then second is world is getting more electric. Be it big or small, measuring is the first step. When you have the capacity to measure all the parameters all across your process and your business, and it gets monitored. And what gets monitored, we get actionable insights. And so that's where all digitization, the massive digitization, what we see, ensures that we have actionable insights. At Schneider, we call it EcoStruxure. Different people have different way of doing it. It connects shop floor to top floor in 3 layers in terms of connected equipments, and then edge control, and then analytics and apps. These provides massive information and lets every business know the opportunities for them to drive efficiency. So that's the first pillar. And the second is about all electric, I mentioned, and I think Ratnesh touched upon the way world is going on electric. And we have also seen that 53% of the energy's efficiencies in the power, right? So electrification electricity by and large is the most cleanest form of energy, right? So most efficient form of energy. As we electrify, we get much more efficient. And add to that the options for cleaner energy, cleaner generations, renewables, and much more. Uni and Mr. Shankar touched upon the other options of cleaner energy. So that actually reinforces further efficiency into systems. So I would say it's about getting all electric and getting digital, whether it is big or small. That's a way every business gets benefited, and that's a way everybody can contribute to this massive mission.
So that contribution part is very interesting because, you know, for the industry, and I'll come back to that, the big picture for the real estate industry, how can they contribute and, to a certain sense, push the industries that feed into the sector to bring about that change? Is it a feasible thing now, and will it gather steam? How do you see that?
I think it starts with all the stakeholders. I'll give you some interesting statistics. India today has about, I'm only telling about not owned campuses, it has about 800 million square feet of office space.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from a commercial office perspective. And it's growing. It is expected to become 1,000 perhaps in the next 24 months. Same way, as Mr. UNNIKRISHNAN was saying, manufacturing and industrial is growing at a rapid pace, especially post-pandemic. And it is growing almost at about 150 million square feet. So construction activity is continuously going to happen. And gone are days where clients are looking at just brick and mortar. No, they want greener spaces. They want to be in buildings. Arun was just mentioning, clients also want to be in buildings which are LEED Platinum certified, USGBC, and they have a lot of their own perspectives and to be taken care of. So that has actually become a very mandatory requirement. So from a construction angle, Ashutosh, if I have to mention, I think today developers are also wanting to, it starts with construction. It starts with green design. Today, if you go to a client's office, you can see a living wall. It actually improves the air quality of the inside of the office. If you use construction materials which are less pollutant, I think that's going to make it more green and sustainable. It is going to have definitely a significant cost reduction in the long term. I would not say on the face of it or short term. In the long term, definitely you're going to see a lot of cost efficiency from a cost perspective. So I think today you take developers, you take occupiers, you take tenants. I think it's a collective responsibility. ESG, I would put it as a very collective responsibility that we are all gearing up to. And we are seeing real estate. Real estate will definitely play a big role in bringing this change. And we are seeing that change happen. I can for certain tell you, in the last 24, 36 months, we are seeing that as a important criteria for decision making in all real estate decisions. Anyone who chooses to put pen to paper on real estate decisions, this has become an important criteria. And I think most of the fraternity is definitely warming up to it. How long would it take is anybody's guess, but I think the intent to embrace and move towards a much more greener from a landlord perspective, developer perspective, or even from a tenant perspective is definitely there. That much we can definitely eat.
Arun, from the industry point of view, are they ready? So when you, the community, when you interact with, are they ready to increasingly move towards a new way of working? Is the market also ready? That's an important criterion.
The market, we are talking about two markets here. We're talking about the commercial space and the residential. Let me for a minute touch upon the residential, which I was a little brief in my initial remark. See, what's happening is the whole green as a facet is moving through in all directions into the resi space. You know, in a residential, what happens today? Today, if you see any of a builder's advertisements, it's talking about 75% of open space within the community, huge landscapes maintained extremely well, etc., which is a direct contributor to being far more greener as a, you know, a residential development, which is what every builder today is aspiring to do because the home buyer is aspiring for that. That's point number one. Number two, the government has already brought in, you know, norms to add up solar panels on top of your buildings and create so much wattage of power through that. So that's in a way a forced component to the whole thing. We as developers have become conscious to possibly ensure, you know, the buildings are far more ventilated because it's easier selling one, and the fact that actually, you know, far more better ventilated obviously somewhere adds to this whole need of being greener. If you guys see, today we more or less do finished homes, as in like homes which are fitted with electrical fittings, etc. So everybody's gone LED. You know, LED is now a assumed subject, which is a big change. You know, big change. Actually, if you were to see, a few years back, an LED would cost about 300 to 350 rupees per unit. Now it's come down to 1/10 the cost. That's the kind of a price which has come over the period of time. So obviously, that's a big contribution towards becoming green. So somewhere in a residential space, which I saw that was also a bigger contributor towards this whole damage which you're causing to this world. You know, I think by itself, by nature, a lot of things are good happening. because of certain regulations to certain good initiatives to pure business need of a developer and so on and so forth. From a commercial perspective, if you were to see, one is actually that the tenants who are leasing out spaces from us, be it industrial houses. In fact, we leased out to Pegatron, which is the largest manufacturer of Apple, the space, the industrial development park which we've done. So what's happened is actually the specs which they had asked was, would push the cost by about 40 to 50%, which is not anticipated in the square footage of building we were doing there. But when you talk about that kind of a cost, we were like saying, why would, we do something like this? But to be very candid here, the rentals which they were willing to pay was more than 2 times. So actually then we realized that there is wisdom to this actually, that they are willing to pay for this extra specs which you need. And the same is going for commercial buildings which you're doing now. We're realizing that a yield per square foot on a rental for, from these good corporates which have come into this part of the world, they are far more receiving towards the buildings being efficient. So we are very happily seeing that customers are receiving it well, which is our tenants. And if that happens, obviously the value of the building is going up and we would do that. So it's very clear, business logic for us.
Okay. In terms of the manufacturing, okay, before I ask you that next question, I must mention, in case after a little while, once we're done with the questions to the guests here, in case you have any questions, please feel free to ask them and direct the questions. So keep the minds working so that you have something to ask towards the closing part of the session today. Okay, so I was talking about the learning for the company. Now, some of the good practices that the industry would like to learn from, whether it's Arun or somebody else, how can that be told or to propagated across different industries within your own immediate industry and maybe through industry associations as well?
Good. I think I would probably talk about two things from that point of view. I think one is on the manufacturing side. I spoke about adopting technology and really the industry 4.0. Today, we have our own internal in-house team. We have around 400 of them. And India is the competence center servicing 800 factories around the world. So we have developed that particular team, and that is something that now we are sharing with many other people. Incidentally, tomorrow we have a set of industries who are visiting our factory just to see, what are we doing from Industry 4.0 and also from sustainability point of view. We have rainwater harvesting. Chennai is water starved, and 9 months of our plant requirement we get only from the rain. We don't take any water from the ground. 9 months of the requirement only from the rainwater harvesting. We have over 1 lakh trees in that plant. Trees planted over there. It's called the urban forest kind of a thing, and around 10 megawatts of renewable power and things like that. So I think you should open your doors, invite more people to come and see that. That is one. Second is, I think in the user industries, I think people like Mr. Arun and many other people in the industry, 2-3 things which are very important, and it's very relevant for multinational companies, because one should not make a mistake that you can copy paste from US or Europe, number one. Number two, you should not underestimate India as a country, that I can come with a so kind of a product. No, I think you have to invest for India. You have to do research in India, something that we have done. So we have one of the global research centers in the IIT Madras Research Park. We develop products specifically for India, number one. Number two, you work with the ecosystem. I think it's important that I think finally it's the awareness which will bring the transformation, for the end customer. It's okay. I mean, tomorrow somebody should go to Casagrand and say, yes, I'm ready to pay 500 rupees extra per square foot as when I'm buying an apartment, because I know during my lifetime I'm going to save and I'm going to get better comfort. So we are trying today doing that with many developers. We are educating them, we are educating their customers in a language that people will understand. Because people don't understand, you talk about flood and other things, they forget very fast. What is important is to either economic impact or the well-being or the comfort. Because especially after COVID, I mean, people are much more sensitive about health, well-being, comfort. I think you talked that language. So something that we are today working with the larger developer community on that part. And third and last is really work with the ecosystem which is really working on the green building. So something that we do very closely with, we have been associated with the Green Building Council. You know, there is Terry has got a Griha rating for India and the USGBC has got. I think it's important to really propagate that message to all the stakeholders and help in developing the ecosystem. Because you need architects who can understand and design the buildings. You need consultants who can do the proper simulation and then, you know, recommend the right decisions. You need people who can install the materials in the building. So you have to really work in terms of developing all that.
Newer products, Mr. Shankar, since you mentioned about some of the, better quality fuel, higher octane rating fuel, all that coming, that have ultimately done better. Would you like to share, and for the audience as well, some of the opportunities, how the newer fuels, you spoke of hydrogen, there are a variety of hydrogen fuels as well. If you can tell the audience what change it could bring about, some things that Chennai Petrochemicals is also working on.
Yeah. Couple of things like what changes on the greener front, what we can bring about in the industry. One of the foremost areas where we can bring in change is by converting our internal fuel requirements for the heaters by going for a greener fuel. Like in our case, what we have done is we have converted all our fuel oil and fuel gas requirements to RLNG. So that now our entire operations is on RLNG. So that is one area where there is enough opportunity to change your fuel mix itself so that your internal fuel mechanism is through a greener fuel, number one. Number two, hydrogen is one of our foremost requirements, like for the process conditions. So what we do is either we use naphtha as a feed for converting naphtha to hydrogen, or secondly, we make our own hydrogen in the refinery by using catalysts and other. Yeah. So what we are now thinking about is, like even the government of India also has come up with this green hydrogen mission. So in these conditions, what we are thinking is how best we can convert our hydrogen requirements to a green hydrogen. So 2-3 things come into picture where it is quite challenging also, and quite a lot of opportunities are also available. Number one is the volume of hydrogen that we are talking about is very high when you talk about refineries as an industry. So in this kind of an industry, when we look at huge volumes, the kind of infrastructure development that has to come in, because we are not just looking at splitting the water molecule and bringing out 2 hydrogen molecules to supplement your fuel and feed requirements, but we are also looking at how energy efficient it is and how cost effective it is. So these are the 2 things we have to look at. Secondly, for doing that particular chemical combination reaction also, you need to have some energy which has to actually split it. So that is when the whole concept of the green hydrogen comes in play, that as long as you are using renewable power to generate green hydrogen, the hydrogen, then it is called as green hydrogen. Otherwise, it has got different colors, different hues. It is ranging from gray to turquoise and all those beautiful colors that you can think about. They are all associated with hydrogen. But as an industry, we are basically looking at green hydrogen. So we are looking at a huge power requirement to actually create this opportunity for the renewable market. So we are also having some ideas, like if you are not in a position to tie up and make your own renewable power, now a lot of industries are coming up. They are setting up solar power plants. They are building up huge infrastructure in, I think in Ramnad and Tuticorin also the MOUs have been signed in Tamil Nadu. So there are a lot of opportunities available for the other players to come in. So we come in as we take the green power from them, we take the renewable power from them, and we set up our own hydrogen plants and convert the water molecule to hydrogen by using the power that we are taking from the grid. So there are a couple of things which are very urgently required in the industry per se, like you need to have a very established hydrogen grid available across the country. Then you need to have a very efficient energy distribution network available for the transporting the green power to the end users. So these kind of challenges are there in the industry, but it also provides a lot of opportunity for Schneider-like players to come in the market and then give us the solutions for that. So these are 2-3 areas where actually the opportunities are immense. So I think if we look at hydrogen per se, because now as we move along, maybe the dependency, my product mix may change from a fuel-based refinery to a petrochemical requirement. So when we move into petrochemical, the energy requirements also are manifold increases there. So that is where the grid also has to support the power requirements and then provide all the required. Because now what is happening is the green hydrogen or the green power that we talk about, the footprint is very large. Like about 3.5 acres of land gives you about 1 megawatt of power. So earlier it was 5, but the technology has now slightly matured. We are able to get it around 3.5. So as long as we are able to bring it in a very smaller footprint, the power generation will also go up. So these are kind of opportunities available in the industry now.
Sure. Yeah. Mr. Rajendran, the opportunity, you mentioned about 11 metro networks running in the city. But if you were to just focus on, for the moment, on Tamil Nadu, there are several others coming up. How could industry work together, and what could change for industry as well as the people when some of these projects go live?
Metro as it is a transportation system which uses green energy, which is electricity. And the sustainable transportation system, or by principle, the sustainability will succeed only if we touch, say, 3 pillars of the system, like society, the environment, and the economy. So these 3 pillars needs to be touched upon and improved, where the sustainability can be achieved. And metro system everywhere, whether it is in Chennai or in any other city, takes care of these aspects while making the metro system. And I would like to categorize the improvements done by us into 2 categories. One is in the design area, and the second is in the operational area. If you take the design area, not only the trains, if you see the stations itself, the buildings of metro rail system. The metro rail system, the buildings are designed in such a fashion that the natural resources like light and the natural water available, like rainwater, is utilized to the maximum level. And we have gone through the certification process, and IGBC has certified all of our stations and other administrative buildings for the peak rating of platinum rating. So we have a IGBC rating of platinum for all of our stations, which also indicates that we are not consuming from the society, but we are using the natural resources which is freely available. So this is one point. So we are IGBC certified, platinum rating. Second is by design, if you take the case of trains, the metro trains, metro train has got a feature in Chennai. The metro train has got a feature of regeneration. Like the traction is taken from a motor, which runs as a generator when braking is done. Actually, the process of braking is creating friction, and the friction generates heat and dust, which is wastage of energy. That wastage needs to be utilized, regenerated as electricity. So this is, by design, this feature is available in the train, which is able to capture up to about 33% of the energy, which is otherwise would have been wasted. Like in Chennai presently, we are consuming about 11 units of energy per kilometer for running the train, the present train. So if you see that about 4 units we are generating on our own while braking. So, and in the case of metro train, on an average for about 1 kilometer, 1.1 kilometer, there is a braking available. And after that, there is a traction. So this braking is getting utilized. Like in hybrid electric cars, this feature is available. Similar feature is adopted here. 100% we are utilizing, and we have designed the traction system in such a fashion that the train has got a speed of 80 kmph, which comes even up to 5 kmph also. Regeneration happens, and then power is restored and it is fed back into the grid so that other train or even other consumer or even in certain peak hours, it may even go back to the EB grid for other users to use it. So this feature is available. Next is, if you see the power side, we have power factor improvement system and also harmonic correction system. Active filters are used, electronic active filters are used so that power factor, of course, there is a mandatory requirement by the EB. We are much above that. The second part is that the harmonics are kept well within the limits. IEEE, there is a 519 specification. And we are much better than that, so that our power losses within the distribution system is reduced to the base minimum. So this is another feature. Otherwise, say certain operational features I'll tell you, like lift and escalator is available in every metro station. Like escalator is not running all the time. It is fitted with certain features that the escalator stops after 2 minutes of an idle if passengers movement is sensed, and if passenger stops moving and within 2 minutes initially the speed comes down to a lower speed, and further 2 minutes it comes to a halt, which really saves energy, and especially in stations where the ridership or footfall is less, this contributes to large quantum of energy. Like smaller things, if you take, now Chennai Metro has decided to move from paper ticket to QR code tickets, which is going to be there in the mobile. And savings are, it's not small savings. From the present ridership, today I could calculate that we will be able to save about 60 lakhs annually with the present ridership, only on paper tickets. So from moving from paper tickets to the QR code mode of ticket. So when the network is large, definitely our ridership is more, this savings is going to be much more. Another area I would like to touch up is like the water saving system, the rainwater harvesting system, and also the other systems by design available for saving of water. Like we have a train washing plant available, automated train washing plant, which pass through and washes. And large quantum of water is required for washing the train. Now we have made a system where the whole wash water is collected back and it is recycled and reused by the same washing plant. So 80–85% of the water which is fed into the system gets recycled and reused, which is into lakhs of liters annually.
Sure.
Similarly, a rainwater harvesting system, if you see, every station has got a facility for rainwater harvesting, and the depot, maintenance depot also has got a rainwater harvesting system, and we have built our own ponds there so that rainwater is collected and reused for normal use.
So, Senthil, then the question, because we've heard several people from the industry talk about some good practices that they're doing. So, how and what are the ways in which these best practices for improving the energy efficiency, and because we are talking the context of energy, or a large part of the conversation is around that, could be taken around to different parts of the country, could be told through industry associations, to industries, to peer groups?
Yeah, I will not limit to energy efficiency. I will expand that to the overall sustainability question. I would say that there are 3 A's are important. First is ambition, second is analytics, and third is action. From the perspective of ambition, I see that corporates in India, as Arun has mentioned, or even Muni, there is a buy-in and people are adapting fast. But it's about converting that into actions. That's where the challenge we see across. And that's where the analytics helps in first. So we start with an ambition. We see customers, some of our customers like JK Cement, they've set the target. By 2030, they wanted to get 75% energy efficient. And we are in a position to help with them. And we are seeing other metrics like 400 plus, around 400 kgs of carbon savings, CO2 savings per ton. So you see these are the kind of specific KPI coming as ambition from top. And that gets converted into actionable items. How do we begin? Some of the good practices to start with baselining. Okay, where are we now? If you need 400, 465 per kg, where are we now? And once we have the baseline established, and then arrive at the target, in what steps we want to reach. And then comes in the decarbonizing actions for decarbonization. Different industry has different ways of doing it. And industry associations, as you mentioned, has a very good repository of what's happening all across. So third step is to ensure we have clear decarbonizing actions determined. And then the analytics helps you to measure, monitor, and in all ways we need to tweak that and fine tune it. So that's how I find the 3 A's comes into picture. From ambition to action, we take the route of analytics, which is the digital I mentioned, all digitization. That brings in a holistic way by which we can achieve what we want to do.
So then the question to everyone, and whoever wants to take it, and we can ask more than one person as well, is can India be a leader, given that industry may want to drive the efficiency, learn, and then enhance it at scale? Can India be one of the leaders in energy efficiency, given the new way the world order is opening up or changing?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think the hydrogen policy is the right one in that direction in terms of one, de-risking the economy from an energy point of view and bringing down the cost of energy, and therefore from that point of view. I think second and most important one I think we should understand is India has the demographic advantage, not from a market everybody talks about, but from the intelligence to work on technology, analytics. I think many things that Senthil spoke about. India has great potential to really develop that. I mean, the reason why we were able to do that, 400 member team for servicing 800 factories around the world, I'm sure Schneider is probably going to do that for the entire world. India has a huge potential. So we don't have to now learn from somewhere else. I think we can teach the rest of the world in terms of many things that can be done from energy efficiency point of view, and also implement it for the rest of the world.
Yeah. Senthil, you wanted to add?
Sure.
Sure.
Just add one small point here. I have no doubt about that. We are blessed with a lot of good resources. So I don't see any reason why we cannot be a leader in this direction. Just to add a couple of points, if you could see the wind and solar and water, all these are in abundance in India. So if we are able to harness it properly, then we will be able to really do good to the society, number one. Number two, just to give us a couple of examples, like how the solar power has really improved a lot. Long back, I'm talking about more than 10 years back, when the Sardar Sarovar canal was made, just to conserve the water, they had put the solar panels on top of the canal. So that is one way of looking at things, how you can have a dual purpose of saving the water from evaporation and at the same time having the solar panels to generate the solar power. Similarly, recently the BHEL also has commissioned solar power across the water body in Ramagundam. So these kind of small and very beautiful ideas which are there in our minds. So in addition to having the proper resources, the intellect also is available to harness these kind of opportunities in our system, so that I think we really are in a very blessed location to take maximum advantage of the green revolution, definitely, no doubt about that.
Kanchana, community at the heart of the change, or wanting that change to bring about this efficiency. And when I say community, even the business community is what I'm talking about. Do you see that happen?
Yes, I think...
what do you pick up when you speak to companies, some of the biggest names around?
I think the experts have given a lot of inputs as to how to make this a greener and more sustainable. But from we do real estate all our life. From a real estate perspective, I think community at heart. I think, yes, it is there across all realms of real estate. You take residential, you take commercial, I think there is the willingness. And in fact, UNNIKRISHNAN was saying, are they willing to give that 500 rupees more? I think yes. Arun, I don't know if you would resonate. Yes, but I think that willingness is coming. If you had asked me this question in 2019, I would have said, perhaps, we don't know if the end user is willing to put that money on the table, but today, yes. Today, that willingness is there, but we want that willingness to accelerate. We will see that change, but I think I'm going to go for it and say yes. There is definitely change. There is a lot of change in the air.
Senthil, yeah.
You asked a question whether India can be the leader. India needs to aspire to that, because what sustainability, the actions around us just is, it acts on the demand side rather than the supply side. We aspire to be a 5 trillion economy. Earlier, the target was 25, right? So now COVID has pushed it by a couple of years. 27 is the target. The amount of resources required is massive. So sustainability helps us to act on the demand side, reducing the resource requirement to reach that. So we need to aspire to be the leader, and we can be the leader.
Okay, so there also another question, and again, open for anyone. For companies which are at the early stage of the curve of the change, where you're wanting to become a more sustainable company, how do they begin? How can they learn from some of the good practices that you do? Maybe you, UNNIKRISHNAN, maybe.
No, I would say, probably at two levels the organizations would need to do. One is at an organization level. So I think from the, I'm talking about a slightly large organization, not the MSME. I'll also briefly touch on the MSME part of it, because it's a very important part of India's economy from that point of view. A reasonably large size organization, I think there has to be a good alignment in terms of the organization's purpose, its vision, because these days everybody talks about all that, that to the goals that you set on a daily level. I think this has to be perfectly aligned, and you have to walk the talk. If you don't do that, then it will be all over the place. I mean, you will have PowerPoint, but you will not have any results coming from on the other side. I think this is very, very essential for that. Second, I think is when you are starting like this, start with some low-hanging fruit. I mean, all of us in our businesses, that's why I was telling that, just by putting the smart meters, if we could save 15-20% of the energy, enough opportunities in the industry. Maybe talk to the experts, talk to many people who can give you that idea. Start with something which is very low-hanging fruit, tangible, that you can really achieve. The MSME part is a very important one, and I'm not sure enough people are addressing that issue today. Because one, MSMEs don't have the wherewithal to really, enter something like that. Second, they are also scared. They don't know what we are talking about, whether it's energy efficiency or, emissions, or, or you talk about IoT or Industry 4.0. There is a bit of a fear factor from that point of view. I think it's a great opportunity. If in a frugal way, if some of these technologies can reach the MSMEs will be very important for our, the whole ecosystem development in many clusters, many industry clusters. Automotive is already happening, but I'm not sure the auto OEMs are doing enough to, help their ancillaries to do all that. But I think this is one area where many of us have to come together. Industries who are already, slightly advanced, to people like Schneider who are experts in that particular field, to many industry bodies like CII and many of them can come together and really make this change for the MSMEs.
Mr. Rajendran, would you? Yeah.
It becomes easier for a new industry to adapt to the system rather than going for a change. You adapt to the old system and then making a change is really difficult. Inertia is also a property of the mind. So definitely new industries definitely should learn from the existing and adapt things. Like one example, we were talking about solar. Adapting to solar and tapping the solar potential has become a culture in metros. Every metro goes for it. Of course, as we were discussing, the DMRC is the biggest, not in terms of percentage, but in terms of the capacity. Chennai Metro has also done a bit on it, and we are now 7 megawatts, and 7 megawatts is equivalent to about 8,000 tons of CO2 emission reduction annually. I come from Kochi Metro, recently joined Chennai Metro. Kochi has done much more in terms of percentage, and if you see, we could do about 11 megawatts, and the percentage, in percentage terms of energy consumption, Kochi had achieved about 55 or more than that. Close to 60% of the energy consumption is only from solar.
Sure.
And we have adopted a solar policy, and we are working towards that direction to achieve 100% of solar or renewable energy. And as the floating was mentioned, we had a plan to have rent certain, lease certain. Kerala has got large water bodies available, lease the water bodies and do solar plants there. So that plan is already happening, either lease water bodies or land. Now, if you see, NTPC has already set up a plant in Kayankulam, which is, I think, more than 75 megawatts or more, rather. And similarly, other projects are also, floating solar is also coming up. So, metros as it is has got a culture of going for solar or other renewable system. Nagpur, if you see, Nagpur is also close to 60% from solar. So, not only we are utilizing the natural renewable energy, but also it adds to savings in the cost of energy or the operational cost.
Sure. I fully agree with Mr. Rajendran saying that for a new project, it is always better that you can build all these things while on the drawing board itself. So that is one very important thing. Like we have also learned from, because having operating this Chennai Petroleum Corporation at Manali for more than 50 years, now we are building one mega project at Nagapattinam, which is almost 35,000 crores, and it is now it is in the drawing board, or you can say on the implementation phase. So we brought a lot of changes there. For example, we have a pet coke, which is basically one of our byproducts. We originally thought that we will consume the pet coke in our for our power plant itself, so that the cost of the project will come down. But when we looked at it, that what is going to be the sustainable model of this kind of exercise, it is really not going to help the cause, because in 10-15 years, when the things really hot up, it's not going to be a good decision to make. So while we were doing the design part, we converted the entire thing to a RLNG-based power plant. So as he rightly said, we have to really think about all these aspects. Also the water conservation, how best we can do a circularity so that there is no load on the groundwater requirements or on the river water. So we need to bring all these concepts on the drawing board itself. So these are some of the concepts we built in our new mega project that is coming up at Nagapattinam, and we are quite happy about the kind of results that are coming out of it. In fact, industry also quite appreciates the efforts that we have taken there.
Okay. Senthil, you'd like to add anything?
Yeah. You asked about for the companies which is in the learning curve. The only message is we are at times where we have the best of technologies to go green or sustainable. So choose what suits them, and rest is leadership will.
Okay, so should we request anyone wants to ask questions? Yes, sir. We'll just get a mic to you. And if you can identify yourself, please. And please put your question to a specific person. Please.
I teach ESG to the MBA students, and I have written an article also very recently in a magazine. I have been what you call fighting for ESG concept to be adopted by the corporates, particularly financial institutions. So my article has been well acclaimed, and I got a recognition from the ministry also. My point is, I read somewhere that in China or elsewhere, the solar panels are run side by side in the railway lines, and they get charged, and zero electricity is being used for the purpose of running the vehicles. I do not know, I read it, but I do not know whether it is in China or elsewhere.
So can you ask your question, sir?
Yeah. So is it possible for the metros to switch over to the charging of charging from the solar panels side by side in the railway lines? And I heard at one point of time, Southern Railway used to make use of Jetropa as an energy source. Is it being exploited now, or is it done away with? Are we getting carbon credit? They say India is getting a lot of carbon credits, and it is being also traded.
So we'll take one or two questions.
Please check.
Also need to give others a chance.
Whether carbon credit is still available to us, and in what status we are. Thank you.
Okay. So the metro part, if you can answer this.
Yeah. Metro part, I'll answer. It's possible. Technically, it is feasible. But then economically, it is not feasible. That's the question. We can install solar panels on the sides of the railway line, especially metro has got viaduct available throughout the road. But also please see that both the sides of the road has got large buildings, tall buildings, and so shade falls on the viaduct. This is one point. When you install a solar panel on the side, the efficiency comes down by half. 50% of the efficiency is lost. Then second part, we have a system. Chennai has adopted a system of 25 kV with overhead equipment, which is provided with electricity for the traction. Those who travel to airport will notice from the Alantur towards airport, there is a structure available, and that structure has got a panel available. Because of the safety reasons of the airport, we have installed that, but we are not permitted to install solar panel above that. Such structures are possible, technically possible, but economically we will not get sufficient solar energy from such panels to use because of the various reasons. Now, I'll tell you another experience from my side in Kochi. When I was working, we have a large maintenance depot available, and like Chennai Central, there is large track available. So in Kochi, there is a large maintenance depot available, close to about 7-kilometer length of track is there in one particular area. All those track was covered with simple structure, where shade is not available. We have covered it with simple structure, and solar panel was installed over that, and we started generating electricity, which close to about 3 megawatts of power we could generate only from that area. So technically it is feasible, but we need to study where shade is not available and where horizontal panels could be fitted.
Okay, I'm not sure anyone here is a Jetrofa expert who could possibly.
Jetrofa.
So we don't have somebody who can help you with that.
In fact, Jetrofa was one of the biofuels which was thought
Correct.
about long back. After
Yeah.
that, the project has not taken off.
Yeah.
It's not
Any
there
other
now.
questions? So,
Hello.
not sure who is a carbon credit expert. So anyone would like to?
No.
Okay, so we'll have to give it a pass.
Dr.
We
Ramanan from...
we don't have a carbon credit in India.
Yes,
think
sir.
You don't have it.
Okay.
So I am
Thank
Dr. Ramanan from Laghu Udyog Bharati, an association representing micro and small enterprises. Mr. UNNIKRISHNAN mentioned about the problems faced by MSMEs in raising necessary resources for these energy efficient systems. Already they are facing a lot of problems. You are aware of the post-pandemic region, that many of them have been closed in Ambattur and Gindi industrial estates. And even for a new plant, when they are in the vicinity of this one, this has not gone into that while working out the cost of project. So as rightly pointed out by you, that a separate sort of attention needs to be given to MSMEs.
So what's your question, sir?
What measures will be taken to support the MSMEs for energy efficient systems? By way of resources, by way of
So you have to
technology?
become a policy maker.
No, I think first I think we need to understand that some of these investments are not very large. For example, putting a smart meter doesn't cost you millions of rupees. You get the payback in a few months, if not in a few weeks. So I think this is, again, like what we spoke about real estate. It's a question of awareness. So it's the onus is on maybe people like Schneider and also many of us from the industry, because somebody like me, I'm active in the CAI. I think it's also important for us from the industry bodies to really create that awareness and bring you the platform. I think Tamil Nadu has, if you are from Tamil Nadu, I think Tamil Nadu is setting up a few centers of excellence on that in terms of industry 4.0 and therefore how to leverage the technology for energy efficiency and things like that. CII has got Indian Green Building Council, which really works on how the companies can become, more green, more sustainable point of view. There are enough experts in the system. We'll be happy to help you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir. If we can have the mic. Okay, we coming to you. Just a bit.
Can I?
Sir, can you?
Yes, I am Prakash here. I was just listening to regarding the railway braking time, they generate power. So is it possible to be used in the automobiles also, the same concept?
Yeah, it is possible. The hybrid vehicles that is coming out, recently Maruti introduced a vehicle which is hybrid very recently, last week or so. And similar models are available in higher end versions of brands of vehicles. So if you purchase a hybrid vehicle, it has got a system of the fossil fuel as well as electric fuel, and so regeneration and efficiency improves. So this is the technology is available, and of course the electric cars also has got similar systems already available.
Thank you, sir.
So future is going to be that only.
Okay, so if we can come here, please. Yes, please, sir.
Sir, nice to meet you all. My name is Gautam Jain from Indian Metal Hub. As a layman, how can we implement to come together with the corporates to save green energy as an individual? Like individual houses or individual, because a lot of real estate people have come and a lot of industrialists have come. But as a layman, as how we can implement so that we can be a part of the world?
Yeah, I'll answer that. Government of India already has got a scheme of doing solar panels, and earlier this scheme was implemented through the state electricity boards, and now MNRE, Ministry of Renewable Energy, has opened up the system where go to the site and you can register yourself without anybody's support and then avail the benefits including subsidy, and somebody will come and assist you implement the solar panels which is suitable to the consumption of your house. Install, maybe it could be 1 kilowatt, it could be 3 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt, whatever the capacity that is needed for you can be installed, and then you can generate your own solar power sufficient to what is your need. So this is possible. You can visit the site of MNRE.
Okay.
MNRE, sir?
Yeah.
Very nice of you, sir. Thank you for your support, sir.
Okay, one last question.
So
Okay.
good evening. And what is your suggestion or your advice for startup companies involving in renewable energy business?
Well,
can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
What is your suggestion or your advice for startup companies want to involve in renewable energy business now? Is it what type of advice you're going to give it to us? One, and what is the type of
I can take on.
what is the type of awareness we are going to create among the public in India about the renewable energy is concerned?
Yeah, maybe I'll take the first question. Second, I will leave it to all other. It's a more complex
Thank
one
you.
to answer. So I think in terms of the startups, when you talk about the energy efficiency, it's a whole lot of spectrum of things that you need to do. One in terms of the technology, one in terms of the solutions that you need to provide, integration in many cases in terms of probably implementing certain things in all these spaces. And I think Senthil also spoke about the data part of it, analytics part of it. So there is a whole lot of spectrum of things that startups can do. Today there are n number of startups already working on that. I think what is important is to probably identify a few platforms and work with those platforms. Instead of cutting it too thin. Imagine if Schneider has a platform or somebody else has a platform. Can the startup work with those platforms? Because then you get certain scale and you get the market access, you can test, you can have a proof of concept tested and things like that. I think that's a great way to really get a scale for the startup from that point of view.
I'll take the second one.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. I think Mr. Rajendran mentioned about the support by government for cleaner energy solar. So that's a kind of awareness. I'm telling if it really helps us, benefits us, the awareness goes higher. And the next is on the technological development and the awareness around that, the options what we have. What we are doing today is part of that. I'm right? So it's about ensuring that we take this message on available technologies all across, and the spectrum is wide. And whether it is an MSE or MSME or a large organization, and then people will start choosing as per the requirement.
Okay. Ma'am.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Damini. I'm part of Schneider Electric. Just intrigued by some of the observations that were made by the panel. You spoke about in the residential segment, right? For the residential buildings, customers adopting, greener building, wanting to pay that extra money, and also that being commercially viable for the real estate developers. Do you see that same adoption trend in the commercial and industrial segment?
In fact, I said the reverse. commercial and the industrial developments already have acceptance to this. So people want greener buildings per se. In the resi space, we've got to do the capex or the initial investment of pushing up, making it more greener. Okay. Whereas a home buyer is going to see the value of it down the line. So he doesn't want to make the entry cost. So it's a concept, it gets difficult to sell when we make it more greener. Other than any mandatory requirements like a solar panel on top, etc. Anything else which gets it more greener. Let's say any of the input materials which are more greener are more expensive at the moment. So when that cost were to be incurred, so the home buyer is going to benefit, enjoy from the benefit of consuming lesser power down the line, in the usage. But he's going to make that extra 300, 400 bucks, and that's where the deltas. The problem is what I was saying. So did I answer you?
Well, okay, I head the Green Next business at Schneider. Will connect separately with you.
Sure.
But the trends that I particularly see in the market is always see that profitability still takes over the sustainability aspect, right? So do you see that, or
So that's exactly what I'm saying. So for us to possibly, I'll tell you what happens. Actually, if you were to make it greener, I've got to push the sale price higher. If my sale price is higher, the velocity of sales could taper down. And we are not ready to take the punt on that because obviously there's a financing cost which possibly starts consuming the margins. Which is why the builders are not really, other than if the home buyer is enticed to the value proposition like a larger landscape in a community, which possibly is a great value proposition, then those are things we do. But to make it greener as a conscious choice is something we are not really tending to. It's possibly how the society's got to evolve, as in the people have got to become more conscious in terms of, see, it's like this, greener is what? Even rainwater harvesting makes it greener. It's not only about energy here. Rainwater harvesting makes it greener. Okay. The fact that people, all of us here, become conscious about the consumption of water in our regular usage in daily life as a choice. So the society's got to evolve. So that's something a business fraternity or a business community cannot really push through. It's the government, the policy makers, the NGOs which have got to propagate that. Whereas we are willing to obviously support to that. That's how I'm seeing it.
I think if I have to pitch in, I think the adoption rate is more in commercial and industrial vis-a-vis residential because the requirement from clients are there now. Today it has become mandatory for a lot of not only multinational companies, even Indian companies. So there is intent from the clients. So there are developers who are willing to put that money upfront and do the buildings. But I think residential, we're getting there. But it's low.
Okay. Also, maybe if I may
Sure,
add,
please.
I think in the commercial space, you have a lot of pension funds and overseas money which is coming in. Those funds insist on sustainability, ESG, very high level of governance and things like that. Safety, these are mandatory for them. So we see really a big, already the commercial sector had a good adoption. I think it's only accelerating even more.
I think the biggest commercial owner today is not DLF or Embassy, it's Blackstones.
Absolutely.
The Brookfields of the world. So
Yeah. One last question, anyone? Nobody wants to be the last. Okay. Okay, sir. Can we have the mic there, please?
Now we are going to have 5G. So many more new towers will be raised, I suppose, and more of a diesel or other fuels will be used. Are they green or are they not green?
So I can, anyone? Should I? Because I can tell you that the number of towers that the industry is looking at is not the way you are trying to suggest, that number will not proportionately increase because the spectrum usage is more efficient, and plus the data usage, the volume of data that you can use, given the equipment that will be deployed, is more efficient. So, and plus the tenancy, we are talking of at least 5 tenants per tower, which is in terms of the lesser number of telecom companies today, looks like we'll not need that really. I follow the telecom sector a little bit, sir.
I hope they will be generating or using more of a diesel and other powers, battery and other things. And there must be little more reduction in the greenness?
I think we'll need to speak offline a little bit.
We will have to wait and watch.
Offline, we can speak about it.
No, diesel may not be necessary. We can have UPS for that, and with UPS, the functionality can be ensured when a power fails.
And solar as an option.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the conversation today. Thanks for being a wonderful audience and being patient. And of course, some of your questions. Thank you indeed. And it's been fun speaking to all of you about this. Thank you. Thank you.